With us today is Jonathan White, principal of Improve Consulting Group and co-founder of Distributed Success. For 20 years, John has helped his clients do things better, faster, and cheaper by understanding the relationships between people, process, and performance. Welcome, John.
Hello, thanks for having me.
That's great, John. We really want to ask you today about, with the restrictions being lifted from COVID, how do companies really maximize their productivity and get that performance, as we go back to work or find this new normal?
Right. Yeah. So what I've been noticing from clients over the past couple of weeks as things start to return back to normal are these questions on, do we maintain some kind of a remote workforce or not? So first off, I just wanted to say that going with a remote work approach, enabling remote work in your culture doesn't mean working 9 to 5 all day, every day from home. There's a blend that can be found, 1 or 2 days at home, half days at home, whatever works. Making sure our people are set up to work at home comfortably. Then there is in the office time to get the whole team together. And then there's another option of cafes, internet cafes, or co-working spaces for smaller teams to get together and have that personal time. So let's do away with the misnomer that going remote means all or nothing. There's a nice blend here, and organizations can still reduce their office size footprint while still having a good cohesive culture and saving some money along the way. But the biggest issue that I've seen is that all these people are talking about productivity and it not quite being there. It's really dipped because we've started working remotely. And so there's something around this where managers are having a tough time, some managers are having a tough time managing their people because the organization wasn't set up to properly give them the information they need to manage. And so in these cases, we have effectively babysitters who want to just ensure that people are sitting in a seat from 9 to 5. When in fact they could be looking at much more important information to see if the work is getting done and if it's being done effectively. And so the great news about how to fix this problem is that it doesn't matter if you're remote or not. The tenets of running a business really effectively have been around for years now. The fact that we have remote work thrown in the mix, it changes a few things, including the fact that it probably changes how you do your work slightly. You're still delivering the same thing. It's just how you deliver it has changed. And in some cases, what our customers maybe want has changed. But, I think some of those effects on what the customers want will smooth out after the COVID crisis has ended. But if we're going to maintain some form of remote work, then we're going to have to make sure that we're doing it in the right way. And so there's kind of a great framework to think about your business. And it's by starting at the foundation, which is to enable a high-performing culture. Next is you want to look at implementing continuous process improvement within your organization. Next, you want to have some organizational alignment. And then finally, you want to have results, drive the results of the businesses to what we want to get done. How do we want to deliver to customers? How well, and make sure that our customers are happy and keep coming back, because without customers, we don't really have much of a business, do we?
Right.
So around the high performance culture is, I'll just start with an analogy. We have a farm. The farmer himself doesn't grow the vegetables. He sets up the conditions for the vegetables to grow. So this is how to think of your organization is we need to make sure the soil is nice and fertile and tilled. We need to make sure that our plants are watered, that they're planted in the right way, that we're protecting it from the elements, that we're watering it regularly. So we're doing all we can to nurture the growth within. And this is what our company should be like. We should be nurturing our employees to grow. And so if we create these conditions, that's what we'll get. It has to be based on mutual respect for everybody in the organization. So lead by example, develop our people to be what we want them to be. Don't just leave them out in the lurch. We need to think constantly about how we can be doing things better, faster, and cheaper. And it's not just the directors and the senior leaders. Employees should be thinking about this too. If they are working through their daily tasks and some of their processes are just a grind from all the manual work or the redundancy, we should be able to give them the tools to solve these problems and make their processes more efficient. And that benefits the company, and it really benefits that employee too, who has just that little bit less stress in their day. Encourage the teams to share in the mistakes. Mistakes happen all the time. These are gifts. When a process falls apart or is broken, we have the evidence of that mistake to go back in and actually fix it to prevent it from happening again. And so I would love to see cultures where people are rewarded for bringing mistakes and breaking processes rather than punished and held accountable when really they weren't set up to be successful in the first place.
Right. And I think, to your point, now that there might be this blend of at-home virtual work versus in the office, there are some subtleties that will need to change. So it is kind of a perfect opportunity to address your processes that maybe were already subpar or needed to be addressed anyways. Like now is the perfect opportunity anyhow.
Opportunity is so the right word. It's a challenge. Every challenge is an opportunity. And this was forced on us. A lot of organizations chose to go this way, although this has been becoming a movement over the past few years to shift to remote work. You stop living within the confines of your city, your geographic area, you open up your organization to be truly international. There are a lot of great benefits. You hire great people, you give flexible work schedules. I mean, there are tons of benefits to doing it. And so, for an organization that hasn't looked at its processes or its structure or the way it operates in a long time, this was a huge shakeup and opportunity to try some new things. My fear is that not enough organizations are doing that. They're weathering the storm so they can go back to normal. I think the really progressive organizations will be positioning themselves to be market leaders in this new world.
Mm-hmm.
They'll define the new normal.
I think so. Yeah. We'll define it together, right? And we'll leave the rest behind, and then the rest will, maybe die a slow death, maybe somehow figure it out at some point after there's been more people doing it out in the industry so they can learn from. But we're seeing lots of business cases, lots of success stories right now. And even where you're seeing failures, you can usually put your finger on why it didn't work and take that into account when you're trying it at your organization. And there's no formula yet to do this. So it's really, every business is so unique, but it does take the vision and the willingness to try, and then engaging with experts like us to help figure out where the changes need to happen first to make this work, and learn from what our industry partners and other businesses are doing for best practices. And there are organizations out there that have been remote for a decade. And I've been working remotely for a decade myself. So a lot of the problems I'm seeing are like, okay, that's not a problem.
Been there, done that.
Someone has to physically sign a form, and now that's a problem. I'm like, digital signatures, they're a thing. So let's figure that out really easily. So, little things like that can really make all the difference.
That's really good. So now you have this organizational alignment and everybody's, rowing in the same direction. But you really touched on something there when you said, like, everybody's doing their tasks and they don't know why. And so, we got to change the way, I guess, we give out job descriptions, right? You're not just doing this. What are you achieving?
Yeah. And it all comes back to the fact that we're not hiring people to sit in seats, and we're not hiring people to look at a job description and do those tasks one by one. We're hiring people to perform. And ultimately, we'd love for our people to innovate as well. So when we have this results-oriented focus, we're really going to be looking towards providing customers with a valuable product in a competitive marketplace. And so we need to think about things like quality and safety and morale and delivery, so that we can measure what matters to our organization and to our customers, and then manage what it is that's measured. So if we want to know how to plan and organize and adapt our processes and our work, then the measures and metrics that matter to different levels of the organization won't matter to other levels. So we need to tie this information back to the strategic plan. So we've talked a bit about this already. If we know where we're going, we need to know what numbers we're looking at, what data and measures we're looking at to show that we've made some progress there. And if we're not moving the needle forward on something to do with our strategic goals, then we should be really questioning whether we should be working on that or not. And measures, of course, should be simple and easy to capture and not burdensome on people. But this really comes all down to like the cause and effect factors in our relationship, so we can leverage these relationships. So think of, you want to stop your car, so you hit the brake. That's a nice visual for cause and effect, because those systems are physically linked. And when we understand that intuitively, we kind of know what to start measuring to, for maybe our stop time based on our speed. If we want to be better at braking, we know that we should be looking at brake pads, tires, anti-lock brake systems, not making the car convertible and giving it a bigger engine. So thinking about the kind of results-based work ties back to everything that we've talked about, because we want to enable a high-performing culture where people are taking the initiative to do things better. Some of the drive to do things better comes from results of the work that we do, how we're delivering to clients and how satisfied they are. Because if we're seeing super high levels of satisfaction, then we know we won't want to be changing as much. And if we're not seeing those levels, then we know we're going to have to start figuring it out. And so then we're going to start looking into our processes. We're going to start looking into if we're moving improvement projects forward under our strategic deployment guide. And when we get the results that we need, we're not going to need to be changing a whole bunch of our processes at that point. So it all kind of ties together in this nice little package of culture and then process and then aligning it all and get the results that you want. And then you can run really cool experiments, changing major parts of your process when you understand your cause effect. So these elements of a system will really help us deliver a higher quality product. So let's focus on that and get it, rather than kind of tossing the ball up into the air and figuring out which one to catch to work on next. You know, it doesn't have to be quite as random. And look,
Yeah.
This is like, you know, I've been doing it for 20 years. I've seen it work. Some of the companies that have embraced this approach are very similar: General Electric, Toyota, Caterpillar, John Deere, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Maytag, Ford, Johnson & Johnson, AT&T, Intel, Nike. These are major organizations who believe in this approach, and it works. These are major multinational companies whose problems supersede small business problems by so much, but they're able to apply it with all that complexity. So we can apply it to small, medium-sized businesses to great effect. You know, even in smaller projects, I've done 50% improvement to cycle times, half of the level of rework just cut right off the bat. Those small little goals and achievements have such a big impact on morale as well as the bottom line.
Well, John, I love how you make it sound so easy. Like, you make me feel like if I had this giant organization that I'd be like, oh, of course, I'm going to go do that tomorrow. Yes, thank you so much for your time. You're a true wealth of information. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. This is lots of fun.
Great. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
All right.